Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good to be back.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. We are going to be having four classes on Megilat Esther. So we're not going to obviously do every word, every letter. We're just going to do some main ideas and start with the fact that Hashem's name, as everyone knows, is missing from the Megilla, which is a very strange thing. You would think a book that is part of the Tanakh, and actually one of the last pieces which was put into the Tanakh, and it's missing Hashem's name. What is a biblical story without God's name, right? Doesn't sound very biblical. There's also a very interesting halacha, where the halacha says, we stop learning Torah in order to read the Megillah. Well, why would we think otherwise, right? Why would we think that someone could just skip the Megillah and keep on learning Torah? And the answer is the story. I'm sorry. Someone might think that, okay, I'm learning Torah now. I'm learning very deep Torah. I'm learning very nuanced things. Hashem's name. It's all about God and His will, His mitzvos. And maybe why should I stop this intense learning to go hear a story? And the answer is no. The story is actually more important and has greater weight than all of the intense deep Torah learning. And the answer is the reason why is answering the why Hashem's name isn't in the Megillah. So Hashem's name isn't in the Megillah because a name is something which describes something, right? When I say, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What's your name? So you tell me your name, Yaela, right? So I know that Yaela is your name. Do I know anything about her? Do I know anything about her talent, her temperament, her light? I don't know anything about her. I just know that her name is Yaela, right? That I know that, you could tell me that a cosine, and I don't need to bring up any sore subjects for anyone. It's a sore subject for me, calculus. But, what cosine and sine is, I really have no idea, okay? I don't know. But I know that that's what it is, right? Okay, that's what it is. But do I know anything about it? Honestly, no. Okay, nothing, zero. So
were you supposed to know something about it?
No, I hope. Thank God. No.
Would you take a class for you?
You don't even want to know when I dropped out of math.
You know cosine and sine?
I only know that for my kids. For some reason, Hashem thought it was funny that all my kids should love math. Anyways, so what it says about Megillat Esther, the hint to Megillat Esther in the Torah is Anochi haster aster panai bayom hahu. Hashem says, I will double conceal my face on that day. But how does it start out? Anochi, I. The Megillah is Hashem. Megillah, reveal. It's not Hashem's name. It is Hashem himself. It's an actual much deeper level of connection and consciousness to Hashem than any other sefer we have, because it doesn't have Hashem's name. It doesn't have a layer. It just has Hashem, which is very interesting how is it done? It's done in story form. It's a story, right? It's a narrative. And really almost all of Sefer Bereshis is a narrative. It's the beginning. Because the story and the events which unfold, those are God. And that's something which is very hard sometimes to incorporate, right? I was, thinking about getting ready for Purim and Shalach Manis, and I'm like, Shalach Manis, first I had this very dark thought, which I probably shouldn't even say out loud, but sorry, I invited myself back, right? And that is, what I'm going to give for Shalach Manis? I'm going to give half a pita and gvina levana, and a tefillah to daven for the chatufim. And my family was like, you are not doing that. And I'm like, next, we're going to give manot krav, tuna, what the chayalim get, tuna, and tiras and a lachmaniya, right? That's what they get, a manat krav, right? With a thing about the chayalim. And my kids were like, no. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll do Safta Rachel from Ofakim, Ugiot. I'm like, half the country's going to do that. That's already out. But how are we going to get into this, into Purim, right? How are we going to get into Purim? And I think today was a perfect example of how we can get into Purim, because just like this morning, right, when I met you, it was pouring rain, it was freezing, right? And, trying to hold your umbrella from not being blown away. I'm telling you, they could have filmed Mary Poppins in Tzfat, right, where she gets picked up with her umbrella. And
it's so funny. She came in today to the Bas Medrash, and it's like she had this umbrella, and it like blew her in. Right, but after I said, "You know, you look like Mary Poppins." I was twice today, Mary Poppins.
So just like, and now the weather, when I came out now in the afternoon, it's gorgeous outside. The sun is shining. There's just a little breeze. I'm not going to say it's hot. That's an exaggeration. But it's beautiful outside. Beautiful. So that's what Purim and the Megillah is all about. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu could change anything at any time. And just like this morning, it was rainy and stormy. And when I was walking in the morning, I couldn't even see more than a couple feet in front of me. The fog was so thick. And now the sun is shining and everything is clear. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could change around anything at any time. And that's how we can, that's how I thought of this as I was walking here today. That's how we can get into the Purim, right? The Purim spirit. Now, there's another amazing thing that I want to point out. The story of the Megillah starts out with Vashti and starts with Achashverosh having his great party, using the kelim, the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash, dressing in the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, a horrible bizayon. And who was there? Who was at the party? At the party were many Jews, right? Now, this party was about the demise of the Jewish people, that they are not going to go back to Israel. They are not going to rebuild the temple. Their legacy is over. That was the celebration. Can I mute somebody here? It's okay. Yeah. I don't know how to mute this. Okay. So the Jews were at this party, okay, and no one forced them to come to the party. They were invited, and they decided to come to the party. So here you have Jews who voluntarily attended a party, and voluntarily ate and drank at the party, and voluntarily enjoyed all of the luxuries that the party had to offer. A party which was for the end of the Jewish people. That's horrible, right? That's horrible, and that's how the decree was so strict. Lashmid laharogu la'abed meinar v'ad zaken taf nashim. That's how Haman was able to pass this horrible decree. Now, in the end, who was saved? Everybody. And let's compare this to Pesach. In the redemption of Pesach, we know that 4/5 of the Jewish people did not merit to be redeemed. 4/5, the majority died and were buried during Makas Choshech, during the plague of darkness. Now, this was before Matan Torah. They didn't have the Torah. This was coming after over 200 years of exile. This was coming after of being slaves. But yet 4/5 of Klal Yisrael did not merit the great redemption of Pesach. And yet, yeah.
This is the question came around Shabbat, but it said, celebrate. I have a person who celebrate all the time. They said, so I did it. 4/5 of the Jewish nation was killed. Why do we celebrate such a thing?
I like the other. Rashi says it means chamuchi, means they went up armed.
They went up armed.
Yeah.
Or there's a very nice medrash on that chamushim, that because there were so many yitomim and so many almanot, and every person in Klal Yisrael took upon themselves to take care of 5 other people. Chamushim.
Wow.
Right.
That's how people see it.
It's a medrash.
I think it's the medrash.
You know,
so it's a good point, but I want to bring a different point. Is the great potency of the redemption of Purim is greater than the redemption of Pesach, because Pesach, not everyone merited redemption. Purim, everybody merited redemption, not only people who didn't hope for redemption, those were the people who were left out of Pesach, but people who went to celebrate a party of the end of the Jewish people who were redeemed. And that's an awe-inspiring thought, that the koyach of Purim is to turn anybody around. Anybody and anything. Everything could be turned around. Somebody who was one day partying for the end of the Jewish people, the next day, Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim, is accepting the Torah meiratzon. from their own free will, with joy, with love, extending love to their fellow Jews, right? When they were just partying the demise of the Jewish people. It's an unbelievable thing. It's an unbelievable comparison. And that's the koyach of Chodesh Adar, and specifically of the days of Purim, including Purim Katan, Shushan Purim Katan this Thursday night, Shabbos, which Be'ezrat Hashem, we should be zochet to see many, many miracles. There's actually a machlokes if Adar Aleph is the 13th month or the 12th month, right? Is it the extra month? So it's an interesting idea. It talks about in the Yerushalmi, and according to the Yerushalmi, it's the 13th month, and it actually makes a halachic difference in a lot of different ramifications. But without getting into that right now, what is amazing though is that the months are out of order now. The parshios are out of order. Truma, Tetzaveh, Kisisa. Kisisa is first, right? And then is Truma, Tetzaveh, Vayakel, Pikudei, right? Everything is out of order, okay? And even the time for Purim is out of order, right? It's supposed to be in the 12th month, right? But when is the 12th month? This is the 13th month, next is the 12th month. And in the Mishnah of Megilla, in Perek Aleph, so it gives us in Mishnah Dalet all these options, right? Well, if you live in the boondocks and you're a farmer, you can come and read Megillah on your Aleph. And if you live even this amount away, you can come and read the Megillah on your pet. What is this, right? You know, we pick when we can do mitzvot, right? Could you imagine if you could pick Leil HaSeder? Well, I prefer Leil HaSeder Friday night so that there's more Chol Hamoed. I prefer Leil HaSeder Motzei Shabbos so everyone gets a nap Erev Shabbos. Like, we don't get a choice when we can keep Pesach. Pesach comes and Pesach comes. Why Mikra Megillah? All of a sudden we have all these choices. Now, by the way, today we all hear it on either your Dalet or Tetvav, or if you're a rear party animal, both. But why do we have choices? Because everything about Adar is above time, And this month, right, we always talk about what's the mazel of the month, what's the shevet of the month. This month has no shevet and has no mazel. Adar Aleph, why? Because it's for everybody. It's for every single person in Klal Yisrael. It's open, right? Every person, every shevet has a chelik in this special month. And every mazel, forget it, we're above mazel, we're beyond that. And that's what we see in the Megillah. So I'm going to leave, we're going to skip to, well, I should have brought a bigger Megillah or glasses. We're going to skip, I'll be okay. I hope. Worst comes to worst, I'll pronounce the words. You'll forgive me, right? What? It's okay. Then they're too big, too strong. Okay, now interestingly enough, in Perek Gimel, in Pasuk Zayin, I just want to point out that on the Chodesh Harishon Chodesh Nisan, on the 13th day of Nisan, Haman cast the lots. They fell out on the 13th day of Adar. Okay? He cast the lottery on the 13th of Nisan. It fell out on the 13th of Adar. And Adar Rishon is the 13th month, which we just said has no mazel, it's above mazel, has no shade, it's for all shvatim, is not bound by time, it's above time. And we always read Parshat Ki Tisa either right before or right after Purim. In Parshat Ki Tisa, we have the 13 Midos Harachamim, right? So 13 for us is a very, quote, lucky number, as opposed to Goyim, which that is like the most unlucky number, right? I don't know if they still like leave out the 13th floor in buildings. Yeah, they skip it. So it's really the 13th also?
17.
It's because it's bigger if you want. Okay, so the 13, and there are 13 entrances to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so 13 for us is a very holy number, as opposed to the Goyim, which is a very unlucky number. Okay, so in Perek Daled, Mordechai hears about what happened, and he sends word to Esther. Okay, so they have this very interesting exchange. Okay, where Esther Hamalka doesn't understand what Mordechai wants from her. Okay, and Mordechai uses a very interesting language. And he says in Pasuk Yud Gimel, Vayomer Mordechai lahashiv el Esther. And Mordechai says to reply to Esther, Al tidami benafshech, do not Tidami means to be silent in your soul. Lihimalei beis hamelech mikol haYehudim, to escape in the house of the king and not suffer like the rest of the Jews. Ki im hacharesh tacharishi. What does hacharesh tacharishi mean? If you will make yourself mute and deaf, right? Not only that you can't hear, but you can't respond. Ba'esahi at that time, Rechov HaPalmach yamod laYehudim in makom acher, va'at ubeis avich tovedu umi yodeh im la'es kazos yigat lamalchus. And Rechov HaPalmach, expansion and freedom and joy will come to the Jews from a different source, and you and your father's house, which is the house of Beit Shaul, of the king of Shaul, will vanish. And who knows if it was for this reason that you came to Malchus, right? Mi yodeh im la'es azos, just for this thing. So maybe the king will kill you, but who knows? Maybe this is your tikkun. I just want to bring this.
You're in Perak Daled Pasuk Gimel.
Yud Gimel.
Oh, Yud Gimel.
So this is a very interesting lashon, right? A very interesting lashon, and it's actually borrowed. Okay, Mordechai borrows this from the end of Parshas, in the beginning actually, of Parshas Matos. Now, in the end of Sefer Bamidbar, we have Parshas Pinchas, which is all about the Chagim. Okay, it's about all the different Chagim, but which Chagim are missing from Parshas Pinchas? Exactly, Chanukah and Purim. But right after Parshas Pinchas and Parshas Matos, we're going to learn right now a hint to Purim. And in Parshas Masai, there are many hints to Chanukah. So
Right after Pinchas?
Right after Pinchas.
There's the two next parshas that are hinting to both.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So in Parshas Matos, now what could possibly be the connection? And remember what we said. Everything about the Megillah and Purim is v'nahafechu. Things being turned over. Things being completely overturned. That's the even better word. So Hashem tells Moshe in Parshas Matos, what happens when people make a neder, when people take an oath? An oath is a fascinating thing because we have 613 mitzvos, but a person, the minute they take on an oath, they have now created for themselves a 614th mitzvah, which they have to keep at the same level as the other 613. So if somebody says, right, and this is just for example, everybody is my witness, right? If I say that I swear in the name of God that I will never eat chocolate again, well, guess what? I have now, chocolate to me is like pig, okay? The same thing. I can make myself a mitzvah, okay? And I do. A person says something, they have to keep it. They keep making an oath. That's why making an oath is such a serious thing. Okay, so what happens when someone makes an oath and they regret it afterwards, right? Say, wait a minute, I just gave up chocolate, right? It's not happening. That wasn't a good idea. Or I can't keep it, okay? By the way, someone who makes nidarim and doesn't keep them is not fit to be a witness. Nidarim, oaths, is not fit to be a witness. And somebody who, the Gemara tells us that somebody who makes nidarim, makes oaths, and it doesn't mean like the kids always say, oh my God, I'm never going to do this, or I swear to God. It means like a person actually really swears in the name of God, okay?
So is it always in front of someone or privately if you make?
Also privately, right? That's whoever was here when we learned about Hannah, right? She made a neder privately to God that she would bring Shmuel, her son, to always serve Hashem and keep him a Nazir.
It doesn't necessarily mean to Hashem. No, it doesn't always have to be just to Hashem. In the name of Hashem.
In the name of Hashem, you have to.
Can say,
a neder is when a person evokes the name of Hashem and forbids themselves to do something. Now there's certain, a person cannot forbid themselves. They could take an oath in the name of God that I will never shake a lulav, right? Never make the mitzvah of lulav. That's not to face. A person can't make a neder that they won't do something which is asur, that they won't do something which is forbidden. Okay?
But if you take on certain things, a person takes on Humra Masha.
That's something else.
Okay.
That's something else. We're talking about now nidarim that a person makes in the name of God. Not that if a person does a good thing 3 times in a row, like they have to continue doing it. Is that a neder? All those things are not clear. We're very careful with nidarim. When someone makes it, for example, how careful are we with nidarim? I think we spoke about this when we talked about Hannah, that if a person makes a neder to bring a certain amount of tzedakah, right? they have to do it. Okay, you can't get out of it. There's no hataras nadarim for that. So let's say somebody's bidding in an auction for an aliyah, right? And people bid until they sell it. There are opinions that say that every person who bid has to pay what they bid.
Really?
Right. Most people don't hold like that. But let's say people say, I know a lot of people say they give chai roitel and they say to Hashem, if I have, a baby or whatever, or I get my wish that I want within before the next Lag BaOmer, then I'm going to bring chai roitel again. And let's say they don't get it. A lot of people tell you give chai roitel anyways, give whatever, what you pledged anyways. Okay. One of my teachers actually did that. He said that if he's a Temani and he has all girls, and he said, if I have a baby boy this year, I'm going to bring chai roitel. He had a girl and he brought chai roitel anyways. Because he said, if I said that I was going to bring it, he was, nervous that it maybe was in the form of
he had a boy?
No,
No.
girl.
No, afterwards he didn't have
Girls, all girls.
They're kind.
What's chai roitel? It's when you give a certain amount.
It's like 18 liters or some other measurement of drink that you give out to people who come to Meron on Lag BaOmer. It's supposed to be a skula for a lot of yeshuvot, redemptions. It's a a multi-purpose
So how does
skula.
someone get it?
There are tons of organizations who will be very, very happy.
But you give money then.
Either money or you bring the drinks themselves.
Oh,
So
that's
how
good
much
to know.
money is that?
I have no idea. It depends who charges you for what.
Some people do it with like shoko.
Yeah, shoko, water,
Water, all
coffee,
kinds of things.
tea.
Some people do it with, grape juice,
Excel,
all
cola,
whatever.
liquor, whatever you want. Okay, so now, what happens if a married woman makes a neder? Okay, is the neder tofes or not? So that depends. What does it depend on? So let's read it. Now, before we get into this, one more question that we're going to answer now, and that why is Purim called Purim? So the Megilla tells us, because he peel pur hu hagoral. Pur means lottery in Parsit, in Persian, and Haman, how did he decide what, his grand plan was executed, well, not executed, but was planned according to lottery. Okay, so it's appropriate to call this holiday lottery. But if we think about that for a minute, that makes no sense, right? Because what are we calling the holiday on? Calling the holiday for the weapon or the means that Haman was going to destroy us, right? Why would we name the holiday that? Wouldn't we name the holiday about the aspect of redemption, right? So keep that in mind when we listen to these psukim. Okay, so a woman makes a neder, okay? She makes a promise, she takes an oath in the name of God, right? That she will, here's an example of something that doesn't work. Let's say a woman makes an oath in the name of God that she will never have children or she won't nurse her child. That wouldn't take, because it's a mitzvah to nurse a child, it's a mitzvah to have children, right? But let's say a woman says, I will never clean the house again, right? Or I will never change my clothes, okay?
But does she have to say Hashem?
In Hashem's name, yeah. I don't want to say Hashem's name, but for example, right? So what happens? So if Vishama Isha Vecharishla, right? We just said this word from the Megillah. So if her husband hears and he's silent, Lohinia Osa. By the way, this idea that I'm saying now belongs to Rabbi David Foreman, an incredible idea. So if she remains silent, if her husband remains silent, and it says Hecherishla, not just remain silent, he pretends he didn't hear, and he remains so she is obligated to keep her promise. Her neder is a neder. But what happens? V'im hafer. What does hafer mean? Hafer means poreim, annul, or poreim means to rip, but it means annul. If he annuls, yafer osam isha, he has a way to annul her vows. Bayom shamo, the day that he hears it, kol motzei sefasel l'nedre u'lisar nafshel lo yakum isha chafreim v'Hashem yislach la. If he annuls, he hears that she made this promise, and he annuls it. How does he annul it? By saying, I don't agree. All he has to say is, I don't agree. On the day that he hears it, he has a 24-hour period, right? And then he annuls it. And what's the word for annul? Hafrein, Purim. What was Purim? Purim was the annulment of the promise that Achashverosh and Haman made, lahashmid, laharog, lahabed, the decree which couldn't be overturned, right? Ki ein lahashiv dvar hamelech. You can't retreat, you can't return, you can't exchange the word of the king. But what was done? An annulment. And that's Lifrom, that's Purim. That is, okay, but Purim, everything is backwards. So here we have the man annulling the vow of his wife. What do we have in the Megillah? A woman annulling the vow of her husband, Achashverosh, because in Purim, everything is upside down. So you have Esther annulling the promise, the neder of Achashverosh, lahashmid, laharog, lahabed, to completely destroy the Jewish people. And Lifrom, and she is Mayfair. She, who's the one who annuls, not the husband, but in Purim, v'nahafachu style, the woman, right? Everything is turned around. Now, maybe we'll go back next week. I'm not sure, because it's very hard to choose what to learn but if we go back to the beginning of the Megillah, we see that there's a few words that repeat themselves again and again throughout the Megillah. Lev, heart, and there's another one, Gan. Oh, Gan, the garden. The parties take place in the garden, and Mordechai is walking in the garden, and Haman in the middle of the night is walking in the garden. Garden, 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 garden. And in fact, the Ariya Kadosh says that Esther is a Gilgul of Chava, and that this is for the story of Purim is the tikkun, the rectification of Chet Adam Harishon. And by the way, what is everything in the Megillah about? Eating, food, right? Okay, what was the first sin? Eating, right? The Jews went to the party from their own volition. Nobody made them. They chose to do that, and they ate. They ate kosher food. It was not just kosher, it was badat zevach. It was, those salad bags you buy with 7 hechshers? That's what it was. It had whatever hechsher you wanted, that's what you got at the party. According to many opinions, what was the Eitz Hadas? It was wine, right? It was a grape. And Chava squeezed the grape into Adam's mouth. That was wine, right? So Chava, who was the impetus, right, and the initiator of the sin in Gan Eden, here she annuls, right? She annuls and she corrects. And but notice, right, she uses her influence for the good here, right? She influences her husband to do the right thing, Achashverosh, as opposed to in Gan Eden, when she influences her husband to do the wrong thing. So there's a lot of language which overlaps as well. If you read Bereshis, the story of the Garden of Eden, and you read the first parak especially of Megilat Esther, there's a lot of language which overlaps, right? Tov v'ra, good and bad, Gan, the garden, and many other words.
Did I make that?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to know what you say about it. So you mentioned that there's a big thing with food, with eating by Chava, and then also by Megilat Esther. Then there's also the fast, which I'm wondering if that has, I'm sure it
does.
It's some kind of correction.
A fast is always a tikkun, right, for eating. It's always a rectification for eating the wrong way.
And also the Purim is very much connected to Yom Kippur, which is also a fast.
Right, very good. Which is also, except on Yom Kippur, we're not on a high enough level to eat b'kedusha, and on Purim we are on a high enough level to eat b'kedusha with holiness. On Purim we could do it. Even somebody who has no idea about what kedusha is, what they eat on Purim is kadosh. Right? There's an inyan to be marbe b'mishta, to eat a lot. and
Still depends how
shalach
you
manas.
eat.
What?
Still depends on how you eat.
It always depends on how, but even if you eat without consciousness on Purim, it has tremendous amount of holiness.
Wow.
I saw this amazing podcast that I follow. This his name is Eli Nash, and he interviews a lot of very interesting people. And
My son-in-law.
oh, he's your son-in-law, Eli Nash, who makes the podcast. Wow. Anyway, so he interviewed. I whenever I can, I watch them, but I just don't have, unfortunately, enough time. But so he interviewed someone whose name I can't remember. As far as I remember, he wasn't religious. I don't think he knew too much about religion, but he was very into meditation, and he made this one great point that I was like, my gosh, like I never thought of that before, and it was such a to me it was just brilliant and very moving. But he was saying you take a cup of water, and it could be anything, shahakol, whatever, and you just think before you make the shahakol, right? You think before you make the blessing, shahakol mi'abidvaro, and as the drink is going down and filling your body, you feel and connect to that consciousness of Hashem, which is now pouring through you and coming into you. And I was like, wow, thank you. That was amazing. And that, like eating bikdusha, that would be eating bikdusha. But on Purim, right, we don't need even to stop and have the whole conscious, it's automatic, happens. What did you want to say? You wanted to say something?
Yeah, about it's not relevant that the law that we learned of the halacha about the husband can annul the it's not relevant to the day. It doesn't go like that today.
Today we don't make nadarim.
Can, but even if
someone made a neder, mistama, yes, it is.
A husband can still annul it.
Yeah,
okay.
I would think so.
24 hours.
Those are not neders that we make like in the name of God. Hataras nedarim is something else, right? There are some things you can't do hataras. Right. There are some things that you can't do hataras nedarim, and there are some things you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that if I don't see why not. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. So then, what is it else it says here? Kol neder v'kol shvuat isar la'anos nefesh isha yekamenu v'isha yefarenu. Right? So, and that's the exact opposite of what happens in the Megillah. Here it says any oath or anything that a woman forbids herself from enjoying, isha yekamenu, her husband can make it happen, make it something which is real. V'isha yefarenu, and then there's another choice, right? He could annul it. He could leave from it, tear it apart. V'im hacharesh yacharishla. Wait a second. We just heard that language in Megilat Esther. But in hacharesh yacharish, and this is what Mordechai is saying to Esther, right? He says, im hacharesh tacharishi. If you are going to pretend you didn't hear, and you're not going to say anything, you're going to remain silent. Isha miyom el yoim, which is also miyom el yom. That's also a word used in the Megillah that Mordechai would come miyom el yom every day to check up on Esther. Vehikim es kol nedareha. So if the husband chooses to be silent, hacharesh yachrish, then her oaths stand. Whatever she forbade upon herself stand. Yacharesh la bayom shamo, because he was quiet and he didn't say anything, like you said, 24 hours. The day that he heard it. V'im, and the next person says, V'im hafer yafer. But if he will annul, hafer, fair, right? Osam, acharei shamo, as soon as he hears, v'nasa es avona. He carries her sin, meaning that she doesn't have a sin if she doesn't fulfill that. Ela hachukim asher tzivah Hashem es Moshe bein ish li'ishto, bein av levito, bein na'areh beis aviyah. These are the laws that Moshe commanded, Hashem commanded Moshe between ish the ishto, between a husband and wife, bein av levito, a father and daughter. So here we have, there's two relationships here, father-daughter or husband-wife. And that's the question, what was the relationship between Esther and Mordechai, right? Were they husband and wife, or were they father-daughter? Okay, so whether they were father-daughter or whether they were husband-wife, not father as in biological father as an eraser, in any event, this is what she needs to do. Okay, these are the halachas. So that's an unbelievable connection. Sometimes you're learning a halacha, right? And it's like, well, what is the Torah really telling us, right? So the Torah tells us things on a few different levels, right? If you have a certain area of land and you want to build as many apartments as you can. So how do you build? In both directions. You build a skyscraper and you build a block, right? Okay. So the Torah is like that also. It's built on many, many different levels because there's so much which is packed into every word. So it's built high, it's built wide, but every space is taken. Okay. So this is what this is what Mordechai is telling Esther. Look again in your Dalit. It's in your hands, right? It is in your hands, lady. It is in your hands, right? You think you're waiting for somebody else to come and do it? You think somebody else? Yes, somebody else could do it, but it's in your hands now. And if you choose to ignore what you were put in this world for and to speak up at this time and to make as if you don't hear, right? Make it as if you don't hear and therefore not act or not speak up, you won't make it. And then he says to and who knows? Mi is a very high level in Kabbalah. It's called mi or ma. Okay, there's ma and there's mi. Okay, ma ashiv laHashem and mi yodea, which are two ways of expressing a question of not knowing. Right? Everything about Purim is also ad lo yada. Right? It's lack of knowledge. There's no way we can possibly humanly understand how this worked, how this happened, how does it work, okay? So we have this situation of mi yodea, who knows? Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. It's like we have the 13 principles of faith. We say, ani mamin, I believe. We don't say, ani mevin, I understand, right? We believe. Do we understand it? No, we completely don't understand it, right? What do we understand? What do we understand about what's going on now in the world? Nothing, right? But what do we know? We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us here, whether it's Esther in her times, whether it's us in our generation, in our times, and we're here for a reason. We're in a position for a reason. We're not in a position for a reason. Wherever we are, we're there for a reason. So the question is, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me right now? Because if Hashem put me here, this is where I belong. And like we said in the beginning, the story is where Hashem is. That is where Hashem is. Hashem is with us in our story. Rabbi Nachman has a very famous teaching called Ayeka, right? Aye, where is Hashem? Okay, what is it he's right about that? It's one of the most famous, Azamra and Aye. Those are the two famous teachings, most famous teachings of Rabbi Nachman. Azamra is definitely more famous, but Aye is also very famous. That where is Hashem? Where is Hashem in this world? So Hashem is concealed in this world. I will doubly conceal myself, meaning I'll wear a mask over a mask. So where's Hashem? And the answer is very simple. Hashem is wherever you ask. Wherever you ask, that's where Hashem is. When you say Hashem, where are you? That is where Hashem is. That is where Hashem is. Now, interestingly enough, in Perek of Tehillim Chof Beis, the Perek which 22. Where is the Perek which is attributed to Esther Hamalka, that she said this Perek, she composed this Perek as she was going to see Achashverosh, and it says Lamanatzech ala Ayeles HaShachar Mizmor David. Esther Hamalka is called Ayeles HaShachar. Ayeles HaShachar is the last star which remains shining before the sun rises. Okay, at the part of the night where all the stars have started to fade because of the way the earth is turning, and there's not a lot of light from the moon. So the only star that's left is the Ayelet HaShachar, and we see it only right before the sun rises. And that's Esther. Esther actually means a star, okay? And she is the last star. She's the last part of the last story in Tanakh, okay? Not the last nevuah, because there was nevuah when they rebuilt the second Beit Hamikdash, but the last story in Tanakh to go in, and she's considered the Ayeles HaShachar, that star at the end of the Golus, right before the dawning of light. So she says, Keli, Keli, lama azavtani. My God, why have you abandoned me? Rachok mi yeshuasi divrei sha'agasi. I feel so far from salvation, and I cry out to you, I roar out to you, and I'm not getting any feedback here, right? I'm not getting any feeling. And the Medrash tells us that as she was walking closer and closer into Achashverosh's inner chamber, there were many, many salim, many statues, a lot of avodah zarah, and she's walking along this corridor, and the tumah, the impurity, is just filling her and filling her and filling her. And she doesn't understand, wait a second, I came here on this holy mission, and instead of feeling close to God, God is watching over me, what do I feel? Just abandoned. Just abandoned. Lama azaftani. Why have you abandoned me? Now, this song, this pasuk is sung on Purim. It's a very happy song. It's a very jumpy song. And it doesn't really match the words, right? My God, why have you abandoned me, right? It should be something like very slow, like crying, kumzit. Why is it all this jumping and drums and excitement? And so I want to explain it in two ways. When a long time ago, in a different Gilgul, different reincarnation, when I used to teach seminary, so I used to take them on Rosh Chodesh Adar or on Purim Katan. I used to take them for this nice little hike in a forest, okay? And keep asking them, we're getting closer to light or further from light? So they were getting further from the light, and we go closer and closer to the meeting place, where I paid this nanach truck to all of a sudden like turn on lights and dancing in the forest. It was great. The quietest, most shameful girls who always were, embarrassed. Wow, you put them in a dark forest with a nanach truck? Amazing. Anyways, so and the idea was exactly this. When we think Hashem is far away from us, and Hashem has abandoned us, and when we call out to Hashem, that's the second we realize Hashem is there. It's like playing peekaboo, right? Where is mommy? Where is Safta? Right? Here I am, right? It's that excitement of, wow, you were always here, right? Object permanence, right? But we haven't mastered object permanence when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So this is this little exercise in, wow, I was always here, right? I was always here with you. Let's tell you another story that actually happened today, 15 years ago. My father, he should be healthy and well. He had recovered from melanoma, and for his birthday, skin cancer. And we decided that for his birthday, we were all going to surprise him, which was also pretty surprising to ourselves too. So, it was his birthday, Face's birthday, and we all came in. None of us live in the same city, all the kids. My grandmother, Aleh Shalom, was still alive then. She was 90 something. And we all came, and none of us said anything, and none of us called my father on his birthday. So my brother picks up my father from the train station to bring him home. And my father's like, do you know what today is? I was like, yeah, February 19th. Like, do you know what today is? I think it's February 19th. Am I off? And my brother's doing a great job. And my father's like, it's my birthday. And not one of my children or grandchildren called to tell me happy birthday. After I had a rough year, survived melanoma, not one person could say happy birthday to me. Not one person. And he's giving my brother an earful. Meanwhile, we're all in the house waiting for him to come home. My parents have a Georgian, so we put all the grandchildren on the steps with balloons, and all the adults, well, we thought we were adults then, we're sitting in the round couch on the right side in the living room, my grandmother. And my father's giving my brother an earful all the way. And my brother's like, he said it was really hard to keep quiet, but he was actually enjoying himself. Like, all of you forgot me. And he kept repeating again, all of you forgot me. You forgot, like, how could you forget my birthday after everything we had this year? And was really a miracle. I mean, melanoma is the number one cancer killing that there is in America. And going on and on and on. And my brother's like, okay, I'm just gonna come in and pick up supper. My mother had made supper for. He told my father that my mother had made supper for his family. Like my mother made supper for everybody. So he's like, oh, to come pick up food, that you could come over, but to wish me happy birthday, no, you couldn't have any of your kids just scribble something on a paper. He's going on and on and on and on. And then he opens the door like with force, that surprise, happy birthday, right? And okay, my father, and this is being recorded, my parents watch everything that I ever goes up on YouTube with my name on it. But my father, he's so funny. He was quiet for a few minutes. It was probably a few seconds, but it felt like a few minutes. And then he goes, just tell me two things. Who paid for all your tickets? And where are you staying? Yeah, well, we put the tickets on my brother's credit card first. And then transfer them to my father's. Seriously? You think I'm gonna pay for me and then I had 5 kids.
It was all on your father's.
Just my tickets. I'm the only one who lives in Israel. Everybody else had for one of my tickets, got all their kids there. That feeling of abandonment, that's how we feel very often. We feel Hashem, Keli, lama azavtani. Hashem, you forgot about me. Forgot it's my birthday. You forgot I'm alive. You forgot my needs. You forgot that I cannot continue in this situation. Forgot about me, right? And I think that, as a nation, we're screaming this out for months already. Hashem, have you, Keli, lama azavtani. Hashem, have you abandoned us? What is going on here? What is going on? And then it just, in just a second, changes to, oh, here you are. Not only here you are, but you were planning this huge surprise, this great surprise of love and unity and togetherness. It was all in the works. We just had to hold on and wait patiently, something that we're not so good at, right? And we don't get, like I find myself, right? We talk about the younger generation, I'm no different, right? I mean, I am part of the younger generation, but not the super young generation, right? Your phone doesn't work right away. You can't figure out how to make an appointment in Mr. Adapnim, right? And all of a sudden you're pressing those buttons very hard, right? Or it takes extra minutes for it to load. There's circles going on. It's like, no, how long does this take? Should we remind ourselves? I mean, I think almost everybody here except for you, Yael, right, had those rotary phones as kids, right? You know how long it took to call somebody, right? If it took that long to call today, we wouldn't make phone calls.
When we came to Israel, we didn't have phones. The
cloud, right?
The post office to make a call.
And put in the asimonim. And the only thing we had was like, oh, I can hear you. I can hear you too. Wow, it's a clear connection. That's amazing, right? Yeah. Time's up. Bye. So we need so much patience. We need so much patience. And this is what the Navi Habakkuk says, right? Chakelo, you have to have patience. He's going to come. Mashiach is going to come. V'lo yachzev. He will not disappoint. He will not disappoint. That's a huge promise. I mean, could you imagine not disappointing a whole nation of Jews, right? We're always disappointed. Why did we go to restaurants? To complain. But there's a joke, right? That it's an old joke from the 80s when the Russian Olim first started coming. So an Israeli says to the Russian, like, so how was shopping in Russia? It was good. And how was housing in Russia? Good. And how was, work in Russia? It was good. So why did you make Aliyah? So I could complain. And that's I think absolutely, because
it's like built into the it's like we're at the end, so close it's harder and harder.
I think so. I think that's definitely part of the concept of chutzpah yasik, and the last generation will be a lot of chutzpah, What is chutzpah? A big part of chutzpah is give it to me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking of the different conversations I had with my kids this morning, right? Give it to me, right? And why can't I have 20 shekels, right? Oh, sure, why not? Why not 50? Why not 100? Why not 200? But that like, we need it and we know it's coming. When you know something's coming, it's harder to wait.
So
Even though logically it doesn't make
Right,
sense.
it doesn't
should be
make
the
sense, but it
opposite.
is harder.
But the human nature is that it's harder.
So since we're chutzpah shop, so that's why we have to be the chutzpah Hashem. Enough carbonod. 1 single second of 1 minute of one of those chatufim that are there, the several they're going through, it's enough to chaper al kolador. We have to keep saying Hashem, enough, this and that, and avanot, and the yitumim, and the purim shikulim, and it's like we have to be chutzpah and say that's enough. Hashem now.
The Rabbi Lubavitch always used to quote the Medrash, which says that we have to demand Mashiach.
Yeah.
Have like a temper tantrum for Mashiach.
Yeah.
Like, no, we want Mashiach. We need, no, we want Mashiach. Like Choni Hamagil, who draws a circle and says, I'm not leaving till you save me. I'm not leaving till you do this. Now, I don't recommend that, right? That might not be a good idea.
You know,
What?
taking it out.
We made it.
Right, not a good idea.
We made it.
But what is a good idea is in our tefillah, not just in our tefillah, but throughout the day, just to say, Hashem, we need Mashiach, we need Mashiach, we need it now, we can't wait anymore. Like maybe you have all the patience in the world, but we don't, right? We're finished, we're gemurim, we have no koyach, we need Mashiach now. We need Mashiach now.
Even the Megilla, just all the suffering of all the 1 second of the suffering of one of those is enough to lechaper al kol hador.
The koyach al purim was just by asking. They didn't do anything. What did they do? They went to a party. They did a tikkun on that. There is no tikkun for that. What tikkun could there be for celebrating the demise of the Jewish people? What tikkun could that be? What could you do for that? There is no tikkun. The only tikkun was to say Hashem save us.
Who was having the party for the demise? I mean, the
Achashverosh.
He was having because he's like, that's it. We're
according to his miscalculation, the 70 years was up. So the 70 years was up. Let's party because that's the end of the Jewish people. Because any nation which is exiled and has no temple and has no organized government and has no self-contained culture has no chance of survival. That's also that's also something like everything was turned around because we have, right? We've been all over the place, right? Without only this past 75 years that we had an organized country, right? Organized is an interesting word. Yeah, we've had a country. But I heard something so great. I don't remember who said it. I think maybe it was Itai Goldwick. He was talking about like what does it mean to be Jewish, right? Is it ethnic? Is it ethnic? Is it a race? Like, what are we? And the bottom line is we're a family, and we're a highly dysfunctional family, but we're a family. And I love that. This is so true, right? We're family, and at the end of the day, family is family, including all the dysfunctional and members. Okay, so let's just maybe do a drop. Let's just finish off with So this is also a pasuk which is talking to every single person, okay? Because every single person is here for a tikkun. Here's Esther. She is this nice, frum girl, and she's taken by force to go live in this harem, and then she's picked to be the queen. She doesn't want to, right? She purposely tries to sabotage any chance she has of being the queen, but despite that, she's chosen. She's chosen for a life that she doesn't want, right? And here Mordechai is telling her, but this is your tafkid. You want it, you don't want it, this is your tafkid. This is Lilu Nishman, Stephen Hill. This is not Mission Impossible, where this is your mission. And if you don't do anything about it, it will self-destruct and you can choose it. You don't choose it, right? You don't choose it, you get it. You get your mission. And so here you have your mission, and we all have our mission. So we could either have a temper tantrum about it and say, no, I want the cookie, or no, I want a different mission. No, I can't take this, or no, I don't want it, or I'm just not going to do it. Or we could just get on with it, and we might find tremendous satisfaction in doing what we need to do. And this is, I think every person goes through this, where we're pretty sure that Hashem, if you gave me if I could just tweak things a little bit, right? If I could win the lottery, just 50,000, 50,000 definitely not. 50 million shekels, right? starting with 50 million shekels, because half we have to pay for taxes anyways, right? So it says 25 million. Okay, we can deal with that. But just tweak my salary a little bit, tweak my income, tweak my body, tweak my family, right? If I was born into a little bit of a different family, Hashem, God, why I could serve you so much better, right? If I had different circumstances, if I could just, rearrange my life, then everything would just be better. And we're positive that we know all the answers. And here, Esther also thought the same thing. No, I can't. I'm here. I don't want to be here. I don't belong here, right? I do not belong here. And that is one of the biggest Yetzaharas that we have, which completely distracts us from actually doing what we're here for, which is the fight between my Ratzon, my inner Ratzon, and my outer Ratzon. Hashem's Ratzon and my just leave me alone Ratzon, right? And just let me live. No, mi yodea im la'es kazos higat lamalchus. You were put here. We were all put wherever we were put, and we were given the life circumstances that we were given. And when we think we're going to make things better, when you have Rubik's Cube, right? So like you get it and you like start playing with it and you're positive, like, oh, I could always, do it back and make it perfect and keep it. And those things never work unless they're like super genius, okay? So that's what our lives will end up looking like, right? We'll just mess up things if we were God for a day, right? Or even for a minute or even for a second. So mi yodea is making such a good point that we have to tell ourselves all the time. Higat lamalchus. Why am I here? Why are any of us here? If we think about it, right? Our parents, our great-grandparents, I don't even know if it was my great-grand, I thought about, like, Israel was like some fairy tale, far-off country that, like, with Arabs and olives and chatzilim, right? And I don't think we knew what chatzilim were in Europe. What?
Hummus and chatzilim.
It's like this far, and yet here we are, right, living in one of the holiest cities in the world. Yeah. How did we get here? I don't know.
I know. Hashem just brought me here.
That's
If
it.
it was up to me, I would never done it.
So we got to Israel somehow, right? Somehow got to Israel. Somehow not only got to Israel, but got to Tzfat. How did we get here? And mi yodea, who knows, right? Who knows why we're here? But to be open to wherever Hashem puts us, and whatever situation Hashem puts us, that we have a mission there to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, to sanctify Hashem's name, and to fulfill our mission. And we should just know what it is. It would be nice to have some clue, right? It would be great if we were all born with like a little wristband with instructions, right? Your mission in life is, but that's part of finding God, is finding God in the story. Is even all the intense Torah learning can't substitute for finding God in the simple stories of daily life. Okay, thank you so much.
Bravo.
It's your father's birthday today?
Unbelievable.
Happy birthday! Happy
My son's birthday and my niece's birthday.
Nah. Wow, is your son named after your father?
No, Baruch Hashem, my father's.
We are Swahili.
Oh.
We do it after somebody. Sorry.